people think it's just a smart breaker, and they don't realize that we actually don't even make our own breakers. We take off-the-shelf breakers because we put the intelligence behind the panel.
Eco energy, let's go, plug in eco energy.
So a couple weeks ago, I posted a video where I installed a span smart panel at my own house and walked you through the whole process. The response has been awesome, and a lot of you had follow-up questions that I honestly couldn't answer on my own. So today I'm sitting down with Reina Smyth from Span to get some of those answers straight from the source. Things like what this actually costs, who it's really built for, how it compares to monitors like Sense, and what's coming next for the product, hopefully. If you're thinking about a smart panel for your house and you're not sure if it's the right move, this conversation is going to give you a lot to work with. Let's get into it. Reina, thank you for joining me about the smart panels and if it's the right move for homeowners. I'm really looking forward to get into it. So, starting off, starting off here, can you tell me a little bit about your role at Span and what your work looks like on a day-to-day basis?
Absolutely. So I've been with Span for almost 5 years now. My current position is I am the regional sales manager for the central part of the United States. So what that means is that I spend most of my days talking to electricians, solar and storage installers, even HVAC contractors about what the product does and when it might be a good solution for their homeowners, as well as working with distributors to make sure that they have the right product in the right market so that you can easily go and pick up a panel when you have an interested homeowner.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I can say from personal experience as an electrician who has used you as a resource that is extremely helpful for both myself and, but directly to the homeowner as well. When, I have a question and we can just call in and get it answered pretty much immediately. That's awesome. So what was the original problem Span was designed to solve for homeowners?
So back in 2018, our founder was working for Tesla Energy as the product manager. He found that a lot of those high-tech projects did not have a panel that was large enough, bus bar rating wise, to support the increased solar that was being produced. And they were having to do a main panel replacement or upgrade for each of those projects. And he thought, we're replacing old technology with old technology. Traditional electrical panel hasn't been changed in 70 years or something. So that's where he started thinking about how we could make it better. He also saw that homeowners were adding in a new way to create energy, but they still had no way to actually monitor what was being used in their home. And he wanted people to see exactly what was being used in their home so that they could potentially make smarter decisions about how to save energy and therefore money on their monthly energy bill. It's kind of grown since then, but that was the original thought process.
That's awesome. It's in my opinion, it's the best product out on the market for that type of customer. And it really is cool to see how it's evolved over the past couple of years in the different technologies, and it really is an iterative design that is going really well. Now we talked to a lot of homeowners about these panels, and there are some of them who are kind of on the fence about it. They see some value in it, but obviously it's more expensive than just a standard panel. And I kind of want to address that head on here. A lot of our customers are interested in Span, but not sure if it's the right investment for them. What do you usually tell someone who's on the fence?
It kind of depends on why they were interested in Span in the first place. So I'm going to break it down into 3 different customer types. The first one would be, our original value was just people adding solar and storage to their home. For that group of people that have battery backup, I would say that when you add in battery, you're making a rather large investment to your home because you want peace of mind and that, assurance that even when the grid goes down, you're still going to have loads in your house backed up. What SPAN does for them is it allows them to see exactly how much battery time they have remaining on their battery in the middle of an outage, and then they can make adjustments based on that. Too many times people will wake up because the grid went out in the middle of the night. Their son had a space heater on running in their bedroom and it drained their battery, or their EV charger was running and drained their battery. And they don't even realize that the grid had gone down and that they were sucking that battery dead before they even woke up for the day. So it's going to give them that peace of mind with the multiple load shedding options we have on those integrated batteries. For the homeowner who is more interested in SPAN because they want to add in more electrical appliances to their home that they did not have before, I would say that this is going to allow you to have an electrical infrastructure that's going to make changes to your home, whether it's you're adding an EV charger today, but you might be adding in a pool pump down the road. Do you really want to have to hire an electrician to come and do an all-day project again because you still don't have enough service size from the utility to your home? Those are the questions that I like to ask them to make sure that it's a good experience for them. A lot of new construction projects add in SPAN because they set up the right infrastructure for the home for the next 30, 40, 50 years that the homeowner could potentially be living in that home.
Yeah. And from personal experience, we installed a SPAN panel at our house a couple of weeks ago, and we were in kind of a couple of those scenarios where we're looking at adding battery backup to our house because our generator isn't really big enough. It's also a gigantic hassle every time the power goes out. And we're also over our load capacity. We had a 200 amp panel, and I did a load calculation on it, and it came out to like 320 amps.
Ooh, yeah.
So we're hitting like two of those biggest points where it does that automatic load shedding, as well as makes it so much easier to add that battery backup in the future. So I've seen that firsthand, and I really do love that about that panel. I think that's one of the things that makes it the most unique, to be honest.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah. What's the most common misconception you hear about smart panels?
Probably that people think it's just a smart breaker, and they don't realize that we actually don't even make our own breakers. We take off the shelf breakers because we put the intelligence behind the panel. So SPAN Energy Intelligence is going to do more than just tell you how much energy each circuit is using. It actually allows you to add more electrical appliances to your home without like adding new utility or adding more service from the utility to your home. So like you said, if you did the load calcs, you would be at 320, which, as you know, is against the electrical code, but SPAN is listed as an energy management system as well as a power control system, which means code recognizes that we're going to make sure that home is safe even when you have more electrical load on your panel than the service size allows. And that's very technical, so you might need to find a way to explain that to homeowners.
Yeah, and one of the main things that I think a lot of people don't realize is that SPAN panel is listed for multiple different breaker types. Generally, a panel can only take one type of breaker. If it's a square D home line panel, it can only put a square D home line breaker in there. Otherwise, you're violating code. And in my research, trying to figure out what the best smart panel was going to be for our customers, I was really between the SPAN panel and the Leviton Smart Panel. And I think there are a few things that pushed me over the edge to SPAN, but one of the biggest ones was that I can put any off-the-shelf breaker on there. So say 5 years down the road, we have an issue and we burn out a breaker and we need a new one. And say it's for our furnace, it's an important load. If we were to have gone with that Leviton panel, I have to order that breaker. There's nobody around us that stocks those, keeps those in stock. With the SPAN, if Home Depot's open or any electrician should have those breakers on their truck, they can fix it right there in the moment. No special parts needed. that kind of addresses another issue too, which is the fact that we have to consider the longevity of the panel. What if you guys were to make your own breakers and you stopped making those breakers at some point? You have a ton of backups that can work with that, and that really gives a lot of peace of mind to me personally. So
Right.
that's all really cool. And the core of that, because I know we're getting a little technical here, the core of that is it's easier to maintain for an electrician down the road. If you ever have a problem, it's going to be way easier for any electrician to fix.
That is true. I've actually spoken with somebody who had presented span to a homeowner that frankly needed to change our panel because it was out of code. It was a federal Pacific panel,
Oh yeah.
and they were a little taken aback by the quote that they received from the electrician because the home was older. They needed to do extra work to get it up to code, and kind of said, "Okay, well, hold on, let me wait on this and do a little bit more research." Well, in the next, I think he said it was a week later, 2 weeks later, they actually blew a breaker that is no longer available, and they were without hot water, and it made that decision to replace that panel happen a lot quicker and a lot sooner. So I always say, hey, if you're doing this replacement for a specific reason, do it now before you have to live without hot water for a few days, because it can take a while to get the permit depending on where you live.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we saw one of those, and we've talked about this on our podcast before with some of those outdated panels. We saw it with a Federal Pacific in particular, just like you mentioned, as well as a Zinsco, where we recommended a panel swap. And like you said, they're not cheap because all of those panels are in older homes. And in order to get it back up to code, there's real work that has to get done that has a cost to it. But in both of those cases that I mentioned, we got a call like a month later or so. And on one of them in particular with a Zinsco panel, the breaker was literally melting because it failed to trip. And then we had to do an emergency upgrade. So it was actually more expensive to do it that way instead of just doing it, when we recommended it when we first went out to the house. So yeah, there are safety risks with some of those older panels, and that's why getting an electrician out to your house, just even if it's just to do a consultation and a safety inspection, is really important if you have one of those older panels, older electrical systems, anything really.
Absolutely.
So next question here. Who is the ideal span customer? And honestly, who probably doesn't need one? Because that's one of the things I covered in the video is it isn't for everybody. There are people who it doesn't make sense for, but who does it make sense for and who doesn't?
Anyone who is building a new home, you're going to set yourself up for that electrical infrastructure to be able to add more electrical loads in the future, whether it's a hot tub or a pool pump, or a lot of states, and that is such a common cause for people to be doing that already, because so many states are actually requiring you to have a certain amount of headroom and for those additional electrical loads down the road. And when you're building a home, the incremental cost is very low. It's the easiest time to replace a panel. The second person is anyone who's going to be adding in a new electrical appliance to their home in a retrofit situation. So right now, the big one that everyone hears about is an EV charger, especially with gas prices going up recently to the levels that they are. There's been a rise in more people wanting to get an electric vehicle. And then they get home and they find out, oh, wait, I can't trickle charge my car effectively. Let me add in an EV charger. And then they find out, oh, I actually am at that service level capacity from the utility. So I have a few options. You can either upgrade your service, you can add in an energy management system like SPAN. That would be the second one. And it's not just limited to EV chargers. It's really induction cooktops are a lot of loads that people are adding into their home because they like the safety aspect, to not have a gas stove in their home. Heat pumps are outselling unitary HVAC systems more in the last 2 years. They took over and they just continue to grow because they're so much more energy efficient, that which
Yep.
saves them money. So there's a lot of electrical appliances that you don't even realize that when you want to replace something and add it with a new electrical appliance, it can put you at that level, needing a service upgrade. The last person is anyone who's adding in solar or a battery backup system. SPAN gives you ultimate control and insight over both. So that's always a great resource. Usually you have to do a panel upgrade when adding solar in anyway. So adding in a SPAN to make that experience better makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
I almost forgot, not ideal. If you're renting a home, not worth your investment. If you live in a smaller home where you don't have a lot of electrical loads in your house, not a lot of appliances, you probably don't need SPAN. It might make sense as we add more and more features, but the ROI is probably not there for you yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say one other thing that I've run into in the wild a couple of times recently is townhouses can be a great case for SPAN because a lot of times the meter housing is on a complete opposite side of the house from the actual panel. So I
Yeah.
actually just did a walkthrough for one of those 2 days ago that was going to be the SPAN panel was thousands of dollars cheaper than doing a service upgrade because of how far we had to take our service conductors through the house. So we can actually do a 100 amp retrofit SPAN panel that still has all of those load shedding and load management capabilities without having that expensive service upgrade. So if you're in the case where it's unreasonably expensive for a service upgrade, either going to 200 or 400 amps, then it might actually make sense for those people as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The panel is designed to go up to 200 amps. So if you're in an older house, you don't need to worry about meeting where the hardware is. We can meet you at wherever your current service capacity is.
Yeah. And that's on the installer side, that's one of the coolest features for me is that we can find using this product a really creative solution to problems that historically the solution was to spend those extra thousands of dollars to do the service upgrade when now you might not need it or we might be able to get around it creatively.
It's always
But
good to have options.
yep, yeah, absolutely. And moving on from that, I saw a few comments on our YouTube video, which, by
Oh,
the way, got almost 4,000 views already in the first
wow.
couple of weeks. Yeah, no, I'm pretty happy with that. A lot of people were talking about energy monitors, and we actually had a Sense home energy monitor on our panel when we replaced it with a SPAN. But I'm interested to see your take on this. A lot of homeowners already have these energy monitors. The Sense and the Emporia, I think, are the two most common. What
Mhm.
does SPAN do differently, and why does it make sense to upgrade from one of those?
The short answer is that SPAN is actually a revenue grade accuracy for each individual stab. Since I like to describe it as a heart rate monitor, while SPAN is more like a brain and central nervous system. So the monitors will tell you what's happening, but they won't actually do anything about it. So if you, with your 320 amp load calculations, if you were to turn everything on in your house, Sense would tell you, hey, you're using a lot of electricity right now, but it wouldn't actually turn things off. SPAN would automatically pause one of those loads. That makes the most sense, so that you would not run into a safety issue or trip your main breaker. The other thing is that from the app that goes along with the SPAN panel, you can turn circuits on and off from anywhere that you are. So that is one thing that we like to do. As we mentioned a few times before, as an energy management system, we can actually avoid that utility service size upgrade, which could potentially save them thousands of dollars. Sense is not going to be able to do that because they don't have that listing from the National Electrical Code.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a lot of the things that I've seen from my panel being in for a couple of weeks now is the, just echoing what you said. It's a heartbeat monitor, but it's not going to actually do anything to help you. It just helps you understand what's happening. So yeah, it's very cool, very different. I don't want to bash the Sense or Emporia products. Those are
Absolutely
awesome
not.
for
Yeah,
certain use cases.
definitely.
Um,
There's always a homeowner that's going to be the best option for them. So it's just two different problems that we're solving.
Yeah, absolutely. I really don't think that they're competing prop solutions. It's just that they do some of the same things, which is I think where some of the confusion comes from. But yeah, thanks for clearing that up. I think that'll be helpful to a lot of people. How does circuit level measurement compare to the inference-based approach that most add-on monitors use?
So, like Sense, they use inference monitoring. So it's more of a guess that they do based on noise on the line. So that can miss things. Span will be using a physical sensor on every single circuit, and that's how we get the revenue grade accuracy. It's measuring the actual electrons that are flowing through to, let's say, your dishwasher versus your air conditioning unit.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, So, when you buy anything new, you play around with every single feature it has. I know, like when I get a new phone, I'm messing around with the new cameras and the new everything for a few days. But once that stuff wears off, once the kind of newness of it wears off, what features do homeowners end up using the most once they've kind of had it for a few months, the newness of it wears off, and what becomes the thing that's carries the most utility for them?
I would say, somewhat surprisingly, the live view, which is to see what's going on in your house exactly at that moment. I was actually with some of my colleagues in our headquarters this week for some planning and training. And one of my colleagues pulled out his phone to show me something completely different on his app. And he realized, oh, wait, what is I can't remember if it was a space heater. It was something that was on that he said, this should not be on right now. No one's at home. And he was able to turn off that circuit to save money. The live view also helps people identify phantom loads, as well as identify appliances that maybe are using more energy than they realize. Two big examples of that is pool pumps. A lot of people, especially if they buy a house with an existing pool, they don't think about replacing the pool pump because it's working just fine. But as they get older, they use more energy, and that's usually one of the top circuits that's always using energy and costing them money on their electric bill. The second would be if you buy a new fridge and you move your old one into your garage because it still works, and finding out that old refrigerator that's in a garage that may or may not be air conditioned is actually working really hard to keep your beer cold. So it's costing them more money than they realize.
Yep.
Well as identifying phantom loads. So
Yeah.
why is my garbage disposal running all the time? That's not right. So that's probably number one. I would say the second thing is if people have a battery, that's one of our integrated batteries, then they probably use the backup prioritization as their most common, especially if they're using a battery to power their home during peak times from their utility and they want to save money, or if there's a storm coming and they want to make sure that they have battery last as long as possible.
Yeah. And I can say again from personal experience, the first day that I had the span panel installed, I was laying in my bed that night and I was looking through the app and I saw that our mini split, which I had labeled right in the app and it popped up right on that dashboard that was using a lot of electricity, was on, and it was cooling our porch down. And I was like, it's midnight. Why is that on? Nobody's out there. And I was able to turn that off right through the app and save money on electricity because it's air conditioning. It uses a ton of electricity and it can be a big cost. Having that ability to just turn it off right from the phone to save some money is awesome.
I love to hear that.
All
Really
right. Good.
story.
What was that?
I said it's a real life story. We can relate.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. First day even already catching stuff.
I love it.
And one of the questions I had was, can you walk us through how the scheduling and circuit control actually works in practice?
I actually cannot, because that is not yet a feature that we have rolled out to all of our panels. A few caveats for that is we do have a SPAN API that homeowners with HomeKit or Home Assistant, things like that, can actually incorporate that into what the tools are already using. That being said, we don't have scheduling sent out to all of the panels as a standard quite yet. That is something that we're working on, as I know that it's a big ask. So the circuit control works now, and that you can go into the app and, like you said, you can turn off a circuit that you don't want on, and what it does is it opens up a relay that's behind the circuit, and then when you want to turn it back on, it closes that relay to resume the electricity flow.
Future improvement. I'm looking forward to it.
That's one of the benefits, is that SPAN panel will just continue to get smarter. And as we roll out the updates, they're all over the air. So hopefully soon you'll wake up and you'll check your app and see that we have a new feature that you can use to improve your life.
Perfect. Yeah, that'll be awesome. For homeowners who are planning to add solar or an EV charger down the road, how does SPAN handle that transition?
So the panel is designed to grow with your home and the improvements you make. So if you were to add an EV charger, there's a 100 amp branch breaker capacity for each of the individual circuits. So even the largest EV chargers, the panel can handle that. The panel does have a 225 amp bus bar, which means you can add a larger solar array than you can a standard panel. So you're less likely to need a main panel upgrade unless you put on just like a massive solar array. So it is built to grow for a future all electric home, if that's what you want to do.
Awesome. And I know that SPAN has 225 amp bus bars. What does that actually mean for homeowners who are considering solar?
So there is, it's going to get technical for a minute here. So there is the 120% rule. So in order to make sure that you don't have too much electricity flowing through your home that could potentially cause safety concerns, there is a rule about how much of a photovoltaic system you can add to your home. So right now, if you have a 200 amp home and you want to add in solar, you are limited at about, I think it's 8.6 kilowatts of solar to be added to your house. With SPAN, having that bus bar that's larger than the main breaker, that actually gives you a larger array that you can add. It's an additional 30 amps of solar backfeed. So if that's too technical for you, just look into 120% rule and you can see how much larger of a solar array you would be able to add to your home.
But essentially, it's better prepared than your average 200 amp panel to accept solar.
Absolutely. So a lot of people with older homes, when they want to add in solar, their existing electrical panel is not large enough to handle the solar array. So they end up having to upgrade their panel and then add in solar, which can make it a more expensive project than they were planning.
Yep, absolutely. Now, on the installation process side, say a homeowner wants to install SPAN, can they just have any licensed electrician do it? Or, because I know you guys have a certification, does it have to be a SPAN certified installer?
It does have to be a SPAN authorized installer is what we say. And the reason is because they've gone through specific training to ensure that they know how to commission the panel and set up the app integration so that it's done well and that makes the most sense for the homeowner using the app, since that's really where the value comes in on the day-to-day side.
Yeah, and I've been through that training. My team has been through that training. And after going through an install, I can say with confidence that it makes a difference on honestly your side, because as the customer, you're going to be paying for that labor either way, and having somebody who knows what to do to make it work right off the bat is going to save quite a bit of money. So it makes sense. That's a great training. And yeah, absolutely. Someone with a span authorized installer is probably great. Now, I don't know if you can give any of this away, but I would love to know what's coming up for Span in the future that homeowners should be excited about.
I think the most recent thing that we announced that's pretty exciting is something called XFRA, and we just announced that a few days ago, and that is going to be basically the ability to allow homeowners add in a smaller version of a data center to their home that will help power the AI that's growing. Data centers are something that's coming, whether we want them to or not. So this is a way to, instead of having a big data center be in your backyard, if we spread that out among a bunch of homes, that could potentially save a lot of people a lot of money, as well as help the grid support the extra demand.
That is really cool. I actually didn't know about this until right now. And we're looking forward for all the stuff that's coming up. Now we're kind of coming to an end here, but I've got one last question for you. If somebody watching this video right now is ready to take a next step, what would you recommend they do first?
I would say go to the website, do some research on what the product does, and then also go to your local electrician who's got information about the span panel, knows what panel might be the best fit for your home, and go through a home assessment with you. What do you currently have? What are you adding into your home? Lots of questions to discuss it, and kind of also, why are you interested? Is it because you want to save a few bucks a month on your energy bill, or is it because you have a whole electrification plan to add in battery and a whole bunch of new appliances? Every house is different, so I highly recommend getting an expert to take a look at your current setup so that they can explain to you how that product can help them in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And that website is span.io. That you heard it here first is the first place to go. Yeah, you got anything else to add that we didn't get to here, Reina?
I don't think so. I think you have a really strong understanding of the product as a homeowner and an installer. So it's great to have partners like you helping to educate the homeowners about when it can help them and when maybe it's not gonna be the best solution for them at this point in time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on this episode, and I'm really looking forward to helping more people get their electrical setup move forward in the right direction. So, if you're in our area and you're interested in a span panel or any electrical upgrades, a home assessment, any of that stuff, give us a call at 708-872-8404, and we'll be happy to help you. Again, thank you so much for taking the time today, Reina.
Thank you, Conrad.